Hey, Algebra 1, we've been talking about solving inequalities this morning, and we're going to keep talking about that this week. Major rule that I want us to watch out for, and I can't stress it enough, anytime you divide by a negative number across an inequality, this sign flips directions, okay? I'm telling you, that's a major theme here. In fact, if we're talking about inequalities at all, other than the fact that it's not just negative 10, in fact, it doesn't equal negative 10. It has to be negative 10 or greater, okay? Like negative 9, negative 8. Thinking about what these symbols mean is important, but really keeping up with this rule about dividing by a negative flips the direction of the sign during solving, super key. So let's talk about a few of these. I think the first one's probably going to be fairly simple, so I'm going to jump in with number 30. 6 times c is 6c. 6 times negative 1, negative 6. And that ends up being less than negative 18. So I'm going to finish solving this out by combining like terms. 6c is less than new number here, negative 12. And dividing by 6, would that flip the sign? Hopefully you're thinking no, because the number that you're dividing, that's 6, is not negative. It's all about the number that's dividing. Is that number negative, okay? So values that would work here, negative 3, negative 4, any value less than negative 2, negative 2 does not actually work within this inequality, okay? So I want you to try 31. I'm going to do 32, okay? Sorry, I'm going to do 32. You're going to do 31. The ones I star are the ones that you're going to be working on at home. This one, I have negative 6/7 y minus 6 is greater than or equal to 42. So this or equal line will allow me to actually use the value that I get at the end in the solution. Other than that, you won't be able to use it if it's just greater than or just less than. So, similar first step as last time. 42 plus 6 is 48. And over here I'm getting negative 6/7 y. So one of the reasons why I want to do this, I want to give us some experience solving with this. Let's think about each value on the left with y, what it's doing, do the opposite. So if this right here means division, to move the dividing of 7, we have to undo that and multiply by 7. Okay? But if negative 6 is in the top of the fraction, that means it's technically multiplying by negative 6 against y. So I'm going to have to divide that number over. So this is called doing a reciprocal. Instead of multiplying by negative 6/7, I'm going to multiply by negative 7/6, and that allows me to get those values over. Now, if you notice, I'm dividing by a negative. I'm moving that number over. So that means that I'm going to have to flip your sign from greater than or equal to less than or equal. And it has to do with this number right here. You're dividing across with a negative number. So let's check our work using the calculator. I'm going to definitely do some graphing with you guys later, but we're not there yet. 48 times 7 divided by negative 6. Multiplication, division, you can just kind of punch all that in and not worry about parentheses there. And that gives us negative 56 as a final answer. Now again, negative 56 is in the solution, but its value is really less than that, like negative 57 and negative 58. We can see that graphing it. All the values that would have to be less than that are going left on the number line from that value. All right, so I'm giving you several to do on your own. I'm going to work through a few of these like I'm kind of working through now, working through some of the odds really, or working through the evens. So let's try 34. I really want you guys to understand how to solve things that have variables on both sides. This is a key skill that seems to have given some people difficulty depending on how much work you've spent with it. So I see like terms, 3x and 2x, but I don't want to just say that's 5x, because really I need to do the opposite of what they're currently doing, and they are currently both positive, meaning they both add. So I'm going to do the opposite to subtract, and then of course here I'm going to do the opposite of plus, which is subtract, and then I get negative 13. So in this case, I don't really ever have to divide by a negative. The numbers don't cause the sign to flip. So I want you to try the rest of them, and we'll talk about 37 for just a moment. Okay, so let's talk about 37. 37 says a salesperson earns $200 per week plus a commission that's equal to 4% of her sales. And this week, her goal is to earn no less than $450. Okay? So her goal is not to earn up to $450. She'd like to earn more than that. So when we say no less than, that means 450 is kind of the bottom. She'd really like to go past that and move greater than. Okay? So it says we've got to write and solve an inequality to find the amount of sales she must have to reach it. So look, she's going to make $200, period, just for showing up, even if she doesn't sell anything. But then it says plus a commission equal to 4%. So commission is, when you work for commission, that means that you make a little bit as a base salary, but it really depends on what you sell. Every time you sell something, you get a cut. You get maybe $5 or $10, or in this case, you get a percentage of all the sales you do. Now, 4% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you were to sell like $10,000, well, that's $400. So that could add up a lot depending on how much you're selling. So we're slowly going to get into percentages a little bit at a time. 4 divided by 100 is 0.04. So the way you calculate percentages is you take the decimal value, for example, 4% as a decimal is 0.04, and you multiply that against whatever you're trying to calculate 4% of. So if I said, what's 4% of 20? Well, I just multiply that by 20, and that would be 0.8. Okay? So just to kind of walk through that, that's something you do a lot actually in real life, calculating percentages. So basically, I have $200 plus 4% of whatever my sales are. That's what X equals. X equals the amount of sales in dollars, of course. And of course, I'm wanting to exceed my goal or at least make 450. So I want to make greater than or up to 450. Okay? At least 450. Okay? I need really more than that. No less than that. So here's our inequality. I want y'all to take this number and move it over here based on what you think you should do in terms of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And then I want you to move this number over here. And then let's see what she needs to sell. She needs to sell greater than or equal to what value? So any calculator that's pretty basic will do the things you need to do. We need to move 200 to put it with 450. We need to move 0.04 to get X by itself. And tell me tomorrow what you guys think about that. All right, so we're about halfway through the video, and we're going to talk about what we probably need a little more practice tomorrow with, and that's the concept of compound inequality. We talked about the word compound today. Compound just means more than one, okay? And so in this case, you have more than one inequality symbol. In fact, in this one, you have two. So maybe we just talk about this first one. I know a lot of people are going to freak out seeing mixed numbers or fractions, but I'd love for us to get more comfortable with that, especially since that's something that you've seen for years and years. We just really need to grow more comfortable with it. Okay? So our goal here is, again, to get the variable by itself, and so I really need to kind of solve moving in both directions. So I kind of showed this setup today. -2 is less than or equal to d plus a half. But I'm going to stop right there because that's one thing I need to solve. And in another case, I need to solve d plus a half is less than 4.5. Okay? These are the two inequalities that I need to complete. So it's like you're kind of working left and then you're moving right. Okay? And it doesn't really matter which order you do them in because you got to solve both of them. Okay? So even though it's fractions, gosh, this couldn't really be much easier in the fraction world. 4.5, which is the same as 4.5, and I'm taking off the half, which means it's like I'm subtracting 0.5, okay? So in a lot of ways, it's like the half is canceling and you're just leaving. The variable has to be less than 4. So when I do that over here and I subtract a half, okay, subtract a half, -2 minus essentially like 0.5, okay? If I spend $2, then I spend 50 cents. It's like I've spent $2.50. Okay? So I kind of talked about how to put these two ideas together today, and it's just like the way it was written in the beginning. The variable's kind of trapped between these two values. Same thing here. -2.5 is less than or equal to the variable, which is also less than 4. So all of our answers are trapped between 2.5 and 4. Like, again, on the number line, here's 4. Here's -2.5. and we're going to basically join them to show that any value between them would be in the solution. Okay. So 43, I want you to solve this one in both directions, kind of cover it and solve it using the same method that we just did. And I want you to be careful with that one because you're going to be dividing by a negative. Don't worry, you will get a fraction here. 12 over negative 8 simplifies to be like negative 3/2 or whatever, okay? But we got to get more comfortable working with fractions. It's just not going to be the last time you see them. They're just going to increase in as much as you see. So 44, we have what's called an OR problem. Either this is true or this is true. There's no values that can make them both true simultaneously, okay? So I'm going to say 2t is less than or equal to negative 4. And on the other case, 7t is greater than or equal to 49. So I really need to solve both of them. Don't pick one. It doesn't mean solve this one or that one. It means solve both so that we can put the ideas together. So let's divide by 2. T has to be less than or equal to negative 2. But over here, when you divide by 7, it says it's got to be greater than or equal to 7. So when you think about that on the number line, here's 7. Here's negative 2. Okay, I mean, here's 0 or whatever, just for reference. But in this one, remember, this is the greater direction. We talked about that symbol being the same as the arrowhead on the end of the number line. So we're going to use the solid dot to include 7. That line means include 7 in your solution. But in terms of less than or equal to negative 2, see, less than is moving in the other direction. Okay? And so there's no number that's going to satisfy both of these, okay? Either it's greater than or equal to 7, or it's less than or equal to negative 2. It's one or the other, okay? So I want you to try, 45, 46, 47. Try these. They're really only like one step. You're only doing one step in each of them, but you do have more than one to do. So give those a shot. And of course, I'll have you email me or come in early to ask questions. But for the most part, I want you to attempt every problem for homework. 48, last one. A town's temperature, a high temperature for a given month is 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and the low temperature is 65. Let's write a compound inequality to represent the range of temperatures for the given month. Okay, so I'm going to give you a slightly different example, and then hopefully you're able to build from there. Okay. My largest class is 29. In fact, that's my first block class. And my lowest class, if I went back to last semester in the fall, I had a class as small as 12. Okay? So to write an inequality that represents the number of students that I had in any given class, I can say, okay, well, the number of students S was up to 129 or equal, or it's as low as 12 or equal, but for the most part, my number of students are between 12 and 29, okay? So I want you to think about that in terms of what we're talking about here, okay? Of course, I'm talking more about temperature, and to be fair, temperature is actually always a capital T. Time is lowercase, sometimes uppercase maybe, but honestly, anytime we see an uppercase T, we really kind of want to assume that that's temperature for the most part. All right, well, of course, 12 and 29 have nothing to do with this problem, but we do have a range of values here that it can get as low as or as high as, and so let's complete that problem, and we'll check it tomorrow. All right, so like I said, if you have questions, if you get stuck, okay, you email me. That's what you do when you go to college. That's what you do in real life. Andrew.Turner@knoxschools.org. Okay, so please email me with any questions. That really makes a good impression to think, oh man, this student got stuck, and they didn't wait. They emailed me. They want the knowledge now, which is great. But if you have questions, that's great, but please attempt every problem for 100, okay? If you leave a few blank, you're looking at a 4 or 3 out of 5, and of course, if you don't do it at all, it's a 0. But if you're watching this video, there's no way that's going to be you, so no worries. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck.